All
Okay,
right. There's a bit of
beautiful.
a freeze there, but now we're good. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we'll just
Cool.
flow. I know your internet isn't the most stable, so we'll just flow with whatever works for this session. So firstly, I just want to say thank you for allowing the public to get to know a little bit about you and your story within Empath Energetics. Because I'm finding the more that people hear about different people's experience in Empath Energetics, they realize like maybe how vast or diverse the different objectives are of the program as well. Because I know I say it, oh, it's an intuition development program, and it ends up being more than that. And it's hard to describe in a really quick way because it can be kind of unique per person what they get out of it since it's a self-healing program. So anyways, I just wanted to ask, because you are a grad, you're returning to the program, and we work together in, different capacities, doing individual work as well. So you can mention anything about just working with me as well. Um, what do you find the impact of the Empath Energetics program has been in your world, in your life?
Right. So that's a really tough question to answer, honestly, because it's something that has spanned so many aspects of our life in so many unexpected ways. When we first entered into the Energetics program, when we first entered into Empath Energetics, we had this interest in being more sovereign with our own energy. And we noticed ourselves spiraling in a lot of different. Oh, we should mention that we use plural pronouns in self reference. So when we say we, it's this body here. But when we first entered into Empath Energetics, we were really interested in this idea of being sovereign with our energy because we noticed that we were often like spiraling in negative thought patterns, and just feeling kind of stuck in the place we were at. Like a year would pass, or like months would pass, or 2 years would pass, and it would feel like we are making progress, but it's not really aligned in the direction that we were hoping. And we just weren't really feeling happy. And so it just really spoke to us from that perspective. But in that process of addressing our like improving our energy levels, becoming more like self-contained and less um, influenced by the external world in how we feel, that's also had like a huge effect in like every aspect of our life. And and also the program itself has addressed so many things within ourselves that we needed to grow. And it's provided that in a very safe, respectful, loving, always loving, accepting place. And that's actually incredible. Like there's so few um, situations I feel where you go to someone and they sign on and they're with you for like a certain amount of time, and you really feel how strongly invested they are in your healing, in your growth as a person, and how much they care about you. And so we highly recommend this program for people who value that, like who need that in their life right now. And I think that's so rare and so special. So yeah, really means a lot to us. Still haven't really described much of the details, but and it's really hard to describe, but we can go deeper too.
But you did though as well. You did also describe the details because it's like the heart place details that I find difficult to, I don't know, it's difficult to just market the experience. And yet that is the draw. Like a lot of people, it actually, I was already starting to tear up when you said that you're in a place where you were doing all this different work. You felt like you'd been doing work, but almost like it wasn't sticking, or it wasn't actually making a difference in some way. It was like you knew things and you weren't feeling things. And it's like a big thing that I notice with sensitive people is that we can be avidly seeking out all these different healing directions and yet not feeling the impact or experiencing it. And so doing the self work allows us, we think we're doing self work, but we're analyzing. We think we're doing self work, but we're learning and not actually integrating or being
Mhm.
with. Right. And so
Absolutely.
the format of this was so important that it would be group and then one on one, because it allows me to really catch and see like, where is someone not landing something or feeling it, and how is that blocking their ability to stay receptive? And for you, what I've noticed in your journey is that you've been able to open so many different ways of being receptive, but also ways of being here. And so I notice, like, sometimes people are in this like etheric spot, and it can be difficult to stay present and grounded in this world. Sometimes people are here and they resist the spirit. And so I'm always trying to figure out which pendulum, direction are they swinging in order to see which way, because we're meant to live in more of a balance with those factors in order to really be strong in our intuition. So I've seen really major change in you, and also really embracing your authentic expression, which was a beautiful thing for me to witness selfishly, watching your journey throughout the first round. This round, you were mentioning as well that it's helped you feel more here and more efficient, productive, or capable in this realm. So in what ways like have the tools of Empath Energetics been helping you, or what do you find the most valuable this round anyway?
This round. Yeah, I think there's like a big difference between the rounds.
There is.
A lot of, yeah, like, and even like in this interview, like I feel like a lot more like composed and able to like express ourselves and like and show up for this. And when we think of our last interview, it was like we were a little more less articulate and less aware of what was happening for us. And but what we see now is like this result of a lot of like groundwork of both in the like present moments, like addressing big challenges as they come up, as life often will offer as situations, but also like this deep groundwork for like a bigger a long-term approach to healing and a long-term approach to like self-awareness. And then now we see that we're like really standing on that groundwork. So after doing this for like 1 and almost 2 sessions now, we just feel this kind of like um, body of practice and support and understanding that that's like assisting us in so many ways. We feel very like spiritually connected to things, and we usually now we've integrated a lot of the practices, so we feel very intuitively guided. We're not like kind of like using our mind thinking through a lot of things that don't need to be thought through, but just felt. And it's a big win for us. We noticed that our days are a lot more effective. Like we'll just spend a whole day and also like energized. Like we just feel like we're very grounded, and we can work very long days, and they can be challenging sometimes, but we always are aware of how we feel and our energy level. And we always feel inspired by you, Kate, by the way that you exemplify that and how you lead the sessions, like every day coming on with like a different thing going on, for you, but you're always like, you're keyed into the quality, the level of presence that you value offering to people. So it's something that we always like, that guides us as a reference to, where we're just like, that's possible, let's bring that into our life too. It's a real leadership role that you take. And so and that's something like just looping back to the like real-time feedback that's necessary when you're healing, like rather than just reading a blog or getting some list of things to do. That real-time feedback is so essential. And what you quickly realize working with Kate, to the outside viewer, is that they are a very, very special, tuned in person. Like they have this like incredible energy and power and a way of like perceiving things in almost like spooky way, but it's not spooky because Kate's actually like really caring about the way they work with that energy. So you never feel scared. It's just like, wow, there's some things coming through that feel a little too real, or a little too like how did you know all that or something, and that just becomes part of your everyday experience. But at the beginning, we remember like starting to work with Kate that it would be like a bit disconcerting, but impressive, like very like, wow, okay, this is something special. And you really come to look forward to the sessions. They tend to like really sparkle in your day and be something I can't wait for that. So I think, yeah, this is it's like really a really special offering that you've created, Kate. And I'm really glad you're like seeing it forward and helping it continue to evolve.
Me too. This is like so it's like emotionally overwhelming and in a nice way. I'm like, wow, this reflection that you're giving me is just like I'm gonna have to go watch this again because I think I like blissed out 5 minutes ago somewhere, just like so great.
Oh, well, I
Um,
really connected to what we're saying, and again, I think that's the result of this project, like this project, this process of like healing and attunement, and we wouldn't have been able to even express ourselves in this way, like 2 years ago. So
Something I notice actually in a lot of the different empath energetics participants is their communication about what their internal experience is changes like with more time in the tank, the empath energetics tank. It's really cool. It's really cool because I think when we can describe our very intense feeling experience to others, then it allows them to also tap into their own versions of that. And then so the ripples of sensitivity go throughout the world and we see it such a strong thing, not a weakness, you know. Um, you were mentioning there's just two things I wanted to cover before, because I think they might be helpful to the outside viewer, as you referred to them, the public, whoever watches this. And I know people do watch it, which is so beautiful. One thing I wanted to ask you is you were talking about decision making being easier, and I feel like a lot of people could relate to that. So I just wondered if you could speak to that idea about intuitive decision making.
yeah, so I remember that was something that when we started working together was like a process that we really clued into. Like it was just that you're really encouraging us to, if there's like it's like, oh, there's you're stuck on something, oh, actually, well, let's look at that, and like let's look at that right now and spend like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And that's something that was really new to us. Like there were things that we would just leave as a condition of stuckness, assuming that maybe one day they would go away. But having this active practice of sitting down and saying, okay, what is actually the issue here, and like feeling into it, and then slowly over time you start to trust and you start to like realize that like by entering into an intuitive mode of engagement um, with these challenges, you can find answers actually very immediately. It doesn't need to be something that's in another lifetime or in another place time. It's really, and there's actually like an alignment, like a timing for everything. And actually that thought entering, it's actually a good time for you to practice and transform, so that's something that really helps in decision making now, because as we integrated that practice over the last few years, I guess, it's become more and more second nature. And so whenever some challenge comes up, as they often do, like 20, 30 times a day, you just sit down and spend some time feeling into them, and then the different kinds of pendulum or like intuitive techniques, listening that we've developed, they're always there to support us and help us come to answers without needing to second guess. Like we just know, there's a knowing, So that's something that's just been so valuable. As someone who's working on our own business, that's really, it's very challenging to always have to make decisions, always have to make choices about the frame, the scope of something, and take risks, and so that becomes very invaluable for living a life on your own terms. But it's also a very worthwhile, very precious thing to be able to cultivate.
Absolutely. It reminds me of like, oh yeah, I use that tool when I'm nomadic, to be able to make decisions of where I'm headed or what needs doing, what priorities are in your business. I was just actually doing some reflecting today on feeling like I needed to do something different within how I share Empath Energetics. And then I went and did a quick journey because I was like, I'm going to overthink this if I think any further. I think a lot of our great minds throughout history, they kind of like stare at a problem for so long. And that's a familiar experience for a lot of us as we get into the like snag of overthinking. And then as soon as they take a walk, suddenly, eureka, or the apple hits you on the head, and then it was like divine inspiration, we got it, and they would attribute that, like some of our like greatest scientific minds would say, oh well, there has to be a spiritual thing at some point because we knew all this information and suddenly something dropped in. And like creativity is the same way, it feels like, anyways. It's like a spirit-based thing. So yeah, really lovely to hear you reflect it that way. And then the other thing I was going to ask, you've talked a little bit about like what it's like to work with me. But I wonder if you have any advice for anyone who's thinking about or who does join the Empath Energetics program.
Yeah, um I think just like ask yourself if this is what you want to do, like it's that's the same principle that this whole program is built on, is just ask yourself deeply. You can just resonate in your heart, and feel the answer, and I know that committing into personal healing can often feel like just another thing we have to do in our life, but it's actually everything.
It affects
And
everything.
influences everything. Like how well you feel in yourself um, influences everything, and you have the answers within you too, which is really special. So I think that the energy and the quality of this program, I think you will pick up and feel in your heart, whether that's what you're needing right now, and you can trust that. And, but do definitely give this a consideration, because I can't stress how highly that um, it's really been a transformative ride for us, and something that yeah, we would have done much earlier if we had the chance or knew about it. So
Me too. The reason I built this is because I was like, oh, I wish this existed for me. And I wasn't just like stumbling awkwardly through years of self-healing, hoping that all this stuff would somehow come together. So putting it all together, I'm really glad that that's the feeling you have of, wow, oh, I almost wish that, we'd seen this earlier, so yeah, that really resonates with me as well as the maker of it and the taker of it. Cause I do put myself in every round anyway. Cause our healing isn't ever done. And it's what's so beautiful getting to watch grads, knowing that actually each layer you uncover more of yourselves as well. And for myself, as I've gone through it, I was realizing, because we're coming up on the 7th round right now, just realizing how much I've shifted in running every round as well. So yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time today and sitting and sharing some of your story and reflecting it to people, because I think it will resonate with people, and you have a very unique and special story as well. So thank you very much. Is there anything else that you felt like you wanted to share or add before we close this off?
no, that feels full circle. That feels good.
It's complete. Cool. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much.